Rumiko Takahashi's Mao debuted in 2019. It is the story of an immortal doctor who began life 900 years ago as a practitioner of onmyodo, magic derived from the interaction between the 5 elements. The series follows a modern girl, Nanaka Kiba, back to the 1920s, where she meets Mao, the onmyoji doctor. The 1920s setting and use of onmyodo are just 2 of the elements heavily influenced by another work, 1983's Teito Monogatari by Hiroshi Aramata. Known in the West as Doomed Megalopolis, Teito Monogatari deals with an evil onmyoji named Yasunori Kato and his desire to destroy Tokyo. The excitement of the story is the way the wicked Kato involves himself in the lives of real-life historical figures such as Kozue Otani, Eiichi Shibusawa, and Yukio Mishima, along with dozens of other celebrities of the era. Yasunori Kato, the antagonist of Teito Monogatari, has become one of the most iconic villains in modern Japanese literature. He has been referenced, parodied, and reinterpreted in a number of works, including as M. Bison in the Street Fighter series, Raido Kuzunoha the 14th in Shin Megami Tensei, and even the metal diviner Hakubi in Mao, who wears an Imperial Japanese Army uniform like that of Kato. The connections between Mao and Teito Monogatari are primarily their strong basis in onmyodo lore and their shared 1920s setting. A major set piece in both series is the dramatic fallout that occurs on September 1st, 1923, the day of the Great Kanto earthquake. The 7.9 magnitude quake is one of the worst natural disasters in Japanese history. Reportedly lasting between 4 to 10 minutes, it leveled large portions of Tokyo and caused an outbreak of fires that engulfed the capital. Tornadoes of flame roared all afternoon into the night, and a 33-foot tsunami crashed against the coastline. Estimates of the casualties place the dead at roughly 142,800 people. In Teito Monogatari, the Great Kanto earthquake marks the first attempt of Yasunori Kato to destroy Tokyo. In Mao, the earthquake coincides with the cat spirit Byoki's reawakening and escape back into the world, as well as the death of Nanaka's parents in the distant future, as the earthquake shockwaves ripple through the time gate that allows her to travel from 2019 to 1923. In the wake of the earthquake, Mao and Nanaka travel through the devastated ruins of Tokyo, where they do battle against Mao's former compatriot, Hyaka, in front of the crumbling facade of Ryounkaku, the first Western skyscraper built in Japan. The destruction of the building has come to symbolize the chaos caused by the Great Kanto earthquake, not only in Mao and Teito Monogatari, but in a number of other stories of the era. In Narikoti Reader's book, Japanese Demon Lore, she discusses how Oni are viewed as outside of the power of the emperor's influence. Consequently, during more nationalistic eras, the enemies of the emperor were also associated with Oni, whether that includes Franklin Roosevelt and Winston Churchill during World War II, or earlier rebels such as Emperor Sutoku, whose power was usurped during the Hogan Rebellion in 1156. Sutoku was said to have held a grudge, transforming him into an evil spirit bent on revenge. In this ukiyo-e print by Utagawa, we see the transformation of Sutoku, hurling lightning bolts and attacking his rivals. Though Emperor Sutoku was overthrown in 1156, the grudge, it was believed, he embodied was still so present in Japanese culture that upon his enthronement in 1867, Emperor Meiji invited Sutoku's ghost to his inauguration to placate the 700-year-old spirit. Similarly, the story of Teito Monogatari involves another historical figure, samurai Taira no Masakado, who, like Emperor Sutoku, is said to have carried his grudge against the imperial family with him after his death. In Teito Monogatari, it is his spirit that has become a placated, slumbering protector of Tokyo, but if aroused, a destroyer, much in the same way Godzilla is shown to have a dual nature as both good and evil. In the story, the wicked Yasunori Kato is trying to rouse Masakado's spirit, and carry on his war against the imperial family and the capital city itself. In Mao, the cat creature Byoki is similarly cast as a powerful creature slumbering beneath Tokyo that was reawakened and wreaked havoc in the wake of the Kanto earthquake of 1923. As the story continues to unfold, Byoki's malevolence is hinted at being more nuanced. It remains to be seen if this seemingly evil creature is as wicked as first believed. The use of curses are a significant part of both Mao and Teito Monogatari. In one famous scene from Teito Monogatari, an attempt is made to end World War II by cursing Franklin Roosevelt to death. The film adaptation, Tokyo: The Last War, leaves Roosevelt's fate unclear, but picks up on the novel's use of the curse instead afflicting Adolf Hitler in a renegade retargeting which causes his suicide. The original novel makes it clear that Japan's curse against Roosevelt was successful, something that Kato aided to allow Harry Truman to drop the atomic bomb on Japan and enact revenge against his hated countrymen. Mao frequently makes use of countering and reversing curses as well, such as his dispatching of Sogen by using his own curse against him, and the secretive assassinations that take place after Mao is named as the intended heir for the temple during the Heian era. While Teito Monogatari has a Forrest Gump-like recontextualization of history as Kato encounters, subverts, and manipulates Japan's place on the world stage, Mao has kept its scope more narrow in focus. However, there are touches of culture and authentic traces of 1920s daily life that filter into the series. We see the right-to-left writing that Japan had begun to use as they pondered how best to transcribe their vertical script into a horizontal Western format. In the film version of Teito Monogatari, this is referenced in the sign for the Lion Beer Hall, which is written left to right in English and right to left in katakana. This is an anachronism of the era. Now, Japanese script, when written horizontally, is left to right, just like most Western languages. In Takahashi's series, we see the same reference made in the milk hall sign of Mao's favorite local eatery. Mao also mentions the still novel introduction of Western food to Japan, something he says he has never tried, while Nanoka comments on its ubiquity in the 21st century where she comes from. The use of keystones is referenced in Teito Monogatari as well. The stones are placed in central locations throughout Tokyo to disrupt Kato's attempt at raising the vengeful spirit of Taira no Masakado. In truth, the stones historically were placed to pin down the massive catfish spirit, which thrashes beneath the islands of Japan, the supposed cause of the earthquakes that afflict the country. A supplemental documentary discussing the real-life connections of magical sites within Tokyo to their use in Teito Monogatari explains the keystones.
鹿島大明神が力の限り要石で押さえつけている。こういった伝説は日本各地に存在している。この地震ナマズはもともとは竜であったらしい。実はこの日本橋の麒麟像が要石の役目を果たしているのかもしれない。
In Mao, the true use of the stones and their connection to the catfish spirit is explained. However, an additional stone is discovered, beneath which Byoki has been trapped, either through some unrevealed means in the past, or as a method of hiding himself in the last place anyone would seek to find him. Ultimately, Hiroshi Aramata's Teito Monogatari is one of the most influential series of popular novels published in Japan, and its influence is still felt nearly 40 years later. There is little doubt that Takahashi's Mao owes a debt to this earlier work, its setting, and the creative use of Onmyodo mysticism.